My name is Douglas Ahnne, captain of Double Down, and we're here at Sinulay. Well, on the night of the incident with the Manawanui, I was in town visiting with friends, just kind of catching up, and then I guess it was around 9 o'clock. I got a call from another friend who, Trevor Meredith, who usually does stuff with Marine police over here. And he said there was an issue with a Navy ship, which had gone aground on the south side. And he asked me, is my boat in the water? I said, oh, yeah, it's in the water. Said, do you have fuel? I said, yeah, there's fuel inside. He said, do you mind if we take it? I said, yeah, you know where the keys are at. Help yourself. And then I left it at that initially. And then about 5 minutes later, he called up and says, conditions aren't the best. I think it's best if you come across and probably drive. I was like, oh, okay. And so town is 30 minutes away. So hopped in the car, came across the hill, was here pretty much in 30 minutes. And as soon as I got here, the boat was ready. There was a lot of people on the dock just kind of waiting. So hopped on the boat and then kind of just went from there. It was, the hardest part about here is getting out the channel, because it is quite a tight channel. And like I said, it was 9:30 at night, dark, windy, rainy. I don't know what the winds were that night. It was probably 20, 25 knots, maybe gusting a bit more. Seas were 2 to 3 meters. So yeah, challenging to say the least. So anyway, at that point, I kind of knew what was going on, but I really didn't know what was going on. I was like, so where's this ship and how big is it? And like, they kind of didn't know either. It was just like, well, there's a Navy ship out there. We're not too sure what the status of the crew is. We've heard that they've gone aground, but we're not too sure what's happening after that. So anyway, hopped on the boat, started the motor, and off we went. So first challenge was getting out of the channel, which we managed to do, luckily. And then from there, I was like, okay, where are we going? And they said, okay, they hit the reef at Tafituala, which is to the west of us. So proceeded out the channel, got clear of the main reef, went out wide, and then we started looking to the west, kind of trying to guess where the boat was. And we could see like some lights in the distance. We're like, oh, that has to be it. But at that time too, we got in touch with, I think it might've been FESA, which is fire and rescue over here, as well as the Marine police, and also people from the ship, which are on the VHF. So we started talking to them, going, okay, whereabouts are you? Where's the ship? And they kind of zeroed us in where to go. So we kind of went that way. There's myself on the boat. There was Trevor Meredith. There was a rep from the Marine Police Division, Maritime Police Division, and one of the staff here from the hotel, Shalom. So we all hopped on, off we went. We found the boat. And then as we were getting close to the boat, we weren't too sure exactly what part of the reef it was on. So we were like, okay, well, and I was looking at my GPS, trying to figure out, okay, well, where can you approach from, where the best place is to actually approach the boat and get people off the boat. Because at that point, we had assumed people were still on the boat. And when we were talking to someone from the ship, they said, come off the port stern of the boat. And we're like, okay, that's easy enough. So we went to the port stern of the boat, and you could actually see, the lights were on, the sirens were going on, the alarm bells were going off on the ship. So we pulled up and we saw a life raft tied to that side of the boat, deployed in the water. So we figured, oh, maybe they're just right here. And then, but we were calling. No one was yelling at the ship saying, oh, anyone there? And then at that point, they were like, oh no, we've left the ship. We're on life rafts. We're on so I think there was 4 life rafts and 2 ribs, and they had gone off the ship on the boats, and they had released and they were pulling away from the reef. Maybe at that point they figured it was best to get off the boat because I don't know, maybe it was listing a little bit, or it was acting a little bit funny, so they're afraid it might go down. So I can understand why they probably hopped on the rafts and try to get away from the boat just in case it actually went down. So at that point, when we heard that, we were like, oh shoot, we thought you guys were still on the boat. So anyway, when we found out they were on the boat, we were like, oh, okay, where are you guys now? And said, okay, we are more to the west, so going towards like Satawa, Safata area. It's like, oh, okay. Like, well, hopefully we can find them. And then like, so we had our two spotlights on and our nav lights and our anchor lights. So everything, like we were pretty brightly lit up as well. So we kind of got directed in. So we were saying, okay, we can, they were telling us they could see us. So, okay, so when we were going towards them, they said, okay, come. But we kind of got confused because there was another boat, which was the Fesso boat, which was actually a little bit deeper out. So we actually went to them first. And then when we got to them, we're like, oh, what are you guys doing out here? Not what are you guys, but I'll be like, oh, actually, you guys are the wrong guys. So we found that we had to actually go more north, closer to shore. So we approached them and we found, well, we finally got to the two ribs and the four rafts. And we found that, so there was one rib which was powered, which was pulling another rib, which I think had overheated and lost power. And behind that, there was the four rafts kind of tied up together. And so there was that one rib that was kind of trying to keep those other rafts and the rib away from shore. Not away from shore, but away from the breakers. I guess that was their main concern, was not to get pulled over the breakers. So they only had one boat which had power left, which they could actually pull people away from the breakers. So when we got there, we communicated whoever with the officer in charge at the moment, and we decided that we would pull the rib that wasn't working and one other raft away from that bunch, because at that point as well, there was a cruise ship that came across from Apia, which was out probably about a couple of miles offshore, just waiting. And also there was the cable ship, La Frogue or whatever it was called. So that had actually come in as well. But since that vessel had dynamic positioning capabilities, like DP vessel, it actually came in as close as it could and then just kind of locked position so it could hold. And so I think it was determined that that would be the place we would try to pull anyone we were rescuing to, just so they could load onto that ship, and then, you know, that would be like their safe haven. So anyway, when they decided we would pull one rib and one raft, we got a rope off them and then started pulling them very slowly because of conditions towards the ship. But as we were pulling towards the ship, the lines that were connecting all the boats, because it was just really heavy seas and like a lot of strain on, like, I mean, I don't know how much pressure was on those lines, but we had lines breaking. We had a cleat off the back of the boat, off my boat, rip off, and that's an aluminum cleat. So you can imagine the stress that I was under. So there was a point where we were about to get to the ship, and we had, I guess, maybe 100 meters to get to the ship. At that point, the line from the rib to the raft broke. Yeah, and so it was drifting away. But we figured, well, we have the rib. We'll get them to the ship as fast as we can, and then run and like turn back around, grab the raft, and then pull them. So at that point, so that's what we did. We pulled the raft towards we pulled the rib towards the ship, got them alongside the ship, and then we turned back around and went to the raft. As we got to the raft, we, at that point, got a rope off them and started pulling them back towards the ship. As we were pulling them back towards the ship, I think whatever their attachment point was on their raft as well broke. So I think we went through that about 2 or 3 times, just breaking line, breaking attachment points. And it was just because, I mean, big swells, a lot of wind. It was just like the stress on everything was pretty heavy. So anyway, we eventually got them close, like really close to the ship. We almost had them close to the ship. And then it was the final time where it broke like as far as line again, and then they drifted away, and we're like, we just couldn't, we kind of made the call that it wasn't, we weren't going to get them to the ship on the raft. Plus, I'm sure everyone was pretty tired, and like actually climbing up that rope ladder to get onto the ship would have been pretty tough as well. So, so anyway, we pulled back to the raft, got back to them, and we decided to load them on our boat. And I think there was 10 people on that raft. So we got all 10 people off the raft onto our boat, and then we then attempted to get alongside the ship to hopefully transfer them from our boat to the ship, which proved more difficult than we originally thought. Just because the amount of swell, the amount of wind, it was pretty much just like a pinball effect. You're just bouncing off the ship, and I mean, even though it's holding position, like 1 minute you're looking at the guy on the causeway that's right there, and then next minute he's 2 meters above you, and you're just like, well. And of course, like with those dynamic positioning vehicles or the ships, when they have all their thrusters going, if anyone goes in the water, it's like you just, that's like the last thing you want to happen. So we were trying to get people to transfer, but it just got to the point where it was a little bit too dicey, and we're like, you know what? I think someone's going to get hurt. It's not going to end up well. So we then, like Trevor and I then had a quick talk and said, oh, well, I think we'll have to take him away and just hold him with us for a second. And we'll take him to like a safe harbor somewhere inside, away from all the exposed swell area. And then we'll just kind of wait out the night, because another call was made during that thing. It was like, well, we're not going to get inside our channel because it was already too tight when we got out, and it was the conditions were bad. And now that we had an extra 10 people on board, it would have made the boat, I don't know, not maneuver as good as it should, So you're very open to whatever the wind and the waves are going to do to you. So anyway, we decided not to come through the channel. And this, I think by that time, it would have been maybe 2 o'clock at night, I think. So we'd already been out there for like 4 or 5 hours. And then we decided, well, we knew there was a relatively sheltered kind of bay coming back towards Sinaloa, which is like Tafituala Bay over here, which is not too far from where the ship went down. So we decided, okay, well, off we go. We're gonna go to this bay, get in there, throw anchor, and wait till morning. And at morning, whenever morning came, we either decided to transfer those people over to another boat, or we would take them through the channel. So anyway, we proceeded that way, and like I said, we had conditions were bad, so we were going into the wave and the waves and the swell and the wind coming back. So like at that night, everything was coming from the east. So we had to punch back into it with swells and waves pretty much breaking over the boat. We had all the crew in the back, and some people kind of closer to us just sitting down and kind of huddling for warmth. But I mean, they seem to be in decent spirits considering what they just went through, but pretty quiet. So anyway, we proceeded to come back, got to the bay at Tafituala, threw anchor, and we got there about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and we waited for, 3 hours until about sunup. And then we got in communications with maritime police, and they had another boat that was doing stuff around the area, and we asked them to come and pick up as many as they could to transfer across, because we would still have to come in outside the reef, whereas because it was high tide in the morning, they could proceed inside the reef to Sinaloa. So yeah, they got there probably about 6:37. We transferred across, and then they proceeded to come back inside the reef, dropped off, and then we came in outside the reef, and I think we both arrived around the same time. And that was pretty much tail of the night, pretty much. I think maybe, I don't know, maybe caught in the moment, you don't really maybe process it at the time. You're more just kind of dealing with the situation and going, okay, well, people need help. And I wouldn't say there was an overwhelming sense of, fear or anything like that, but it was just like, you're in the moment, and I don't know, we've been doing stuff on the ocean all our lives, so you just like, well, get there and help out. So, but of course later on, you're, after the adrenaline and all the, I guess the pressure of the moment wears off, you're a bit more, I guess, reflective, and then you go, well, that was a little bit draining. Yeah, so I slept well that morning. Yeah, but yeah, it was a interesting night for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as like, I mean, I definitely appreciate everyone that was out there helping out. I know it wasn't just us. There was people from shore. There was the cable ship. There was the cruise ship that was out there lending support. Even if they weren't actively helping, there was, you know, it's always good to see lights out there. You know, if it's you're out there by yourself and doing this, you're like, you know, you feel a little bit lost, which is easy when in the dark. But, you know, having those people out there, as well as like the people from FESA, and then especially like Police Maritime Division, they were extremely helpful. You know, I mean, I think everyone played their part, so that was the main thing. Yeah.